Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Almost Adults Extravaganza. I'm your host, Gage, and right next to me is my other host, Kat.
It's me, Kat, and I am absolutely sitting right next to Gage. We are in the same state.
What state are you currently in, Kat?
I am currently in Missouri.
Missouri?
This is new. This is a new development.
Last time we talked, you were in Florida.
Yes, I've been in Florida for a very long time, and I am no longer in Florida. I'm in Missouri. I know 0 people. I live alone. I watch a lot of TV.
What TV?
I've been binge watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's so good.
That's a fun show.
It's there for me when I need company. Turn the TV on and all the voices make me feel like I'm not alone.
Well, Kat, you can call me anytime.
Aww.
I'd love to chat with you.
I would love to chat with you too. I also came to Missouri not to be lonely, but to start my new job. Yay!
Yay! How's your new job going?
It's great. It's so cool. I love all my coworkers. One of them brings a dog, so I get to hang out with a dog all day. And we're making comics, which is the dream. So I love it. I really do. I'm learning a lot. Days go by super fast. It's a blast. I love it.
That's the dream, man. Having fast work days.
Yeah, it's nice. What have you been up to, Gage?
When did we actually record our last podcast?
Oh, God. Okay, let me think. Sometime... I was going to say November, but that's not true at all.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past me to, like...
I think it was sometime in May. I want to say May.
I think it was May, too.
Okay.
That sounds right.
That sounds right.
I've been trying to get one of these podcasts out a month. And I'm not going to make any promises, but I'm going to try to do 2 for this month. One that you are hearing right now.
Woo.
And the next one you'll be hearing in the future
Ooh.
of this month.
Hope we're still here in the future.
So yeah, I had June off for the first time in a while because I had some money saved up and I had sort of a lull in my work. A recent development is I'm going back to my work because technically it was only a temporary thing, but they're bringing me back this month and the next month. So I got work, thank goodness, but I had some time off and I got to relax a little bit and play some video games. I played through the God of War game. That's fun. And I got to see my family in Florida.
That's really nice.
Yeah, God of War's nice, but the family was really the highlight of it.
Yeah, it's nice that you had enough money saved up where taking a month off was okay and you got to do things that you enjoy and see your family and relax a little bit. That sounds like June was a pretty solid month.
Yeah, June was a fine month. I started taking walks now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
In that 110-degree weather?
Yes, there's a massive heat wave.
Ooh.
And I went out to Malibu with a buddy of mine to film something for his YouTube. And good God, I was melting.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so things are going pretty well for me so far.
I'm glad to hear that.
And it sounds like things are going well for you too.
Things are going great. It's a lot of chaos from moving like halfway across the country, but I just gotta take it in stride. I think I was a little spoiled living in Florida with like 0 problems. So the move has been a little rough, but you know, it's all worth it. And I came here for some cool shit and I'm really excited.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing the cool shit that you've always wanted to do.
Yay.
Speaking of cool shit, we had a challenge last month.
We
And that challenge was Tell Our Truth. So, Kat, you had a bit of a struggle with this one, right?
Yeah, this was a really challenging challenge. So great job, Breakup Pod, because I really struggled with this one.
So what did you end up doing?
Well, so the thing about speaking my truth is I spoke like little truths. Like I would say things to people that like maybe I was sugarcoating before. Like I feel like, you know, there are things that I need to say to someone that I've been wanting to say, but it's hard to decide if it's something that is better left unsaid or if it's something I need to confront. Like if confronting it is going to be worse, if it's going to just open up old wounds that, you know, have been kind of scabbing over and it's like, oh, don't scratch it. It's bad for it. You know what I'm saying?
I think Breakup Podcast actually said it best. I think a bad conversation is better than no conversation at all.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I highly implore you to do this. But that being said, you are in like a big transition right now since you just moved to St. Louis. You got this new job. So I don't want to put pressure on you to do it anytime soon, but I think it would be wise to eventually speak it.
Yeah, I agree. And that's so true. It is probably better to have that conversation than to not. Otherwise, I think I'm just going to like feel resentful towards this person for a long time. But also, that being said, you're right that I did just go through a whole transition of moving to a new city. So I would like to have that conversation like when I'm ready. I feel like it's not the right time for it yet. But I really love that we were challenged to do this because it really made me think a lot about being honest with people and what I'm hiding from people. And I'm a very non-confrontational person, so this made me think a lot about like, am I just kind of being like okay with shit that I'm not okay with, or should I really try to be honest with people and kind of, you know, strengthen my bonds with those people by like really telling them how I feel and not being a pushover in a way. So I really did like this challenge.
Dude, I feel the exact same thing when you said I'm a non-confrontational person. I will let the world burn before I say something.
Oh, yeah.
If, like, someone's, like, cutting off my leg, then I'd be like, all right,
Yeah,
maybe this has gone a little too far.
So what about you? Did you speak your truth to someone?
Yeah, I spoke it to 2 people, because...
You've spoken it to 2 people, I spoke it to 0.
Well, you said you've done Little Truths.
Little Truths. I also told somebody that Fruits Basket was my favorite manga, but I don't think that counts as, like, speaking my truth, so...
Ooh.
It was pretty bad.
We might have to have a conversation after the podcast if you're not probably reading the right mangas.
It's the nostalgia.
I thought Doki Doki Literature Club was your favorite manga.
I have so many things to say to that, but go on. We're talking about you now.
Actually, here's a quick plug. Hey, sometimes Kat and I do streams together, and we did Doki Doki Literature Club, and I had a lot of fun.
It was super fucked up.
I had a lot of fun.
I had fun too. Once we got through like the first like hour of gameplay, and then it started getting into the real shit, then I was like, all right.
We had someone, well, it's not a spoiler since it's been out for a while, but we've had someone stab themselves in front of us, and we had to watch them for 3 days.
Yeah, and now I'm wondering, like, okay, so, like, if we romanced the other character, how did she die? What was her fate? We gotta play it again, Gage.
I'd be down to do another run. I enjoy streaming with you. I do voices for them, though, and I hate doing those voices.
Yeah, your voices, okay, you did, like, Salad Fingers, you had, like, a Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins, and then you had just, like, a Broadway guy. And these were our 3 lovely ladies.
And Kat was the angsty boy, the self-centered boy. Whatever.
That just had my standard dude impression voice.
No, your standard dude impression voice is, I don't think we should be doing this, Kat. If you really loved me, you would probably get me a cookie or something.
Exactly.
That's how men sound to Kat.
That's how all men sound to me.
Kat, why can't I have my cookie? God. It's like Napoleon Dynamite. Anyways.
Yeah!
Anyways, check out our streams if you want. We do it very sporadically, but maybe I'll try to get a schedule one of these days. Yeah, speaking my truths, I asked out 2 girls. 2 of them.
2 of them.
Not just the one, the 2.
You got guts, kid.
Thank you. I was rejected both times.
Aw, how did it go? Tell us everything.
Well, the first time was probably the nicest way I've ever been rejected.
Good.
Yeah, this girl I really liked, I asked her out, and she's like, oh, no, I think you're a wonderful person, but I'm just, like, not dating right now, but you're really wonderful, and I appreciate you asking. And I've been there. I've been to the place where I'm like, I don't feel like dating right now. So I understood that, and she took it in stride. Kudos to her.
That's good.
The second girl got very, very nervous and said, oh, I like girls. And I'm like, oh, I'm not one of those.
I mean, do you think she was being honest with you, or do you think she was trying to just come up with an excuse?
I think a little bit of both.
Okay.
I thought she was bisexual, but I could be wrong. I don't want to assume something like that. But hey, for whatever reason, she didn't want to go out with me. That's fine.
I think that's great that you were able to do that, to ask both of them.
Yes. Come back to me in another year, and I'll tell you about the third girl I asked out.
Wait, there's a third girl? Why is this not included?
Oh, no, I'm just saying it's going to take me a very long time to ask out another girl.
All right, that's cool. I get it. I mean, I'm a coward, so I will ask out nobody between now and then.
Have you ever asked someone out?
Oh, God. I don't think so. I feel like I'm the kind of person where I'm just, like, awkwardly wiggle myself into situations, and then neither of us ask each other out, and it's like, well, we're here, and maybe that's why my relationships fail. This whole challenge is teaching me that maybe I should be more confrontational and straightforward and honest with people.
Stare at a dude straight in his eyes, say, yo, bro, I want yo dick.
That's gonna be my personal challenge, is to just get up the courage to say that to a fella.
I just imagined you at this, like, classy dinner party, and you're doing the Charleston or something, and then the song stops, and you, like, put your head down, you look up and say, I want that dick.
Why am I doing the Charleston?
Because that's what you do. You do the Charleston.
I would do the Charleston.
Exactly.
I would. That's very me. That's very on brand.
It's very Cat brand. If you want to buy a Cat brand Charleston shirt, let us know.
Yeah.
Anyways, we did a podcast. Me and Dan, I'm still doing that revolving co-host things. So me and Dan Kawka talked to our good friend Michael Hunter from the Weird Alphabet. And we talk about meeting our heroes and what that is like for us. Kat, have you ever met a hero of yours?
Oh my god, I sure did. Okay, my favorite band is the Mountain Goats.
Yes.
Which is like a very, like, vanilla thing to say.
I don't think so. I feel
Thank
like
you.
a vanilla thing to say would be like, Katy Perry's my favorite band.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I appreciate that, because I feel like everyone likes the Mountain Goats, but I love the Mountain Goats.
You surrounded yourself with people who like the Mountain Goats.
That's the optimism I need, Gage. Thank you.
So you really like the Mountain Goats.
So I really like the Mountain Goats. I've seen them like 3 times in concert. The second time I saw them in concert, I met John Darnielle of the Mountain Goats, the Mountain Goat. I met him. And it was a very awkward, meeting, because, like, I didn't know I was going to meet him. I was with my cousin, and she was like, hey, there's John Darnielle. And I was like, ah! So I, like, ran over to him, and I was expecting a crowd, right? And there was no crowd, so I got over there. And I was like, hi! And then, like, I shook his hand with both of my hands, you know? And I was like, I was gonna bring your book, but I didn't. So he signed my shirt. And then I went home, and the next day, I just cried all day.
Oh.
And that is a true story.
Damn. You won this podcast. You're not even in this podcast, and you won. Our stories are going to be lame compared to yours.
I hope you guys have great stories. I'm really looking forward to hearing about the heroes you've met. I know you've met some pretty cool heroes.
Yeah, but to quote Captain Hammer, everyone's a hero in their own way.
Oh, yes.
You, and mostly me, and you. So that being said, coming up on Almost Adults.
His eyes lit up, and he's like, that was you? And then without me being able to say anything, he just reached out his hand to, like, shake my hand. Next thing you know, we see him drive past us, like, in the opposite lane. And I'm like, no way, that was not. That couldn't have been.
While I was reading it, I had noticed this one character that had looked like me. And I realized once I showed him that, I was actually dressed up as Marty McFly.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I didn't have my glasses on for that costume, and I had shaved my beard as well. And in the comic book, he had glasses, he had a beard on, and I realized as soon as I said it, I was like, this doesn't look like me at all now.
My friend Gage is gonna talk to you. Oh, and Dan, he'll be there, too. Well, they're gonna talk about the things they wanna say, speak about their lives from day to day. They're gonna dive into the nuts and bolts. Welcome y'all to Always Adults.
It's actually Almost Adults. Hey everybody, and welcome to another delightful episode of Almost Adults. I'm
Hello.
here with, first and foremost, Michael Hunter.
Hi, that's my name.
Michael, how have you been since the last time you've been on this podcast?
Well, considering it was, years ago,
It was years ago.
I've grown up a bit since then. I'm a few years older.
You now only watch one YouTube Let's Play channel.
That's kind of correct. Yeah.
And second most, we have my wonderful new co-host,
Hey,
Dan.
I'm Dan.
Dan, how's it going?
It's going well. Bit tired from work today, but it's going well.
You spilled Red Bull everywhere?
Yes, I spilled Red Bull.
Okay, to be fair, you had it on the corner of the desk,
Uh-huh.
and I was trying to fool with the headphones down here, and you're like, oh, I'll be fine.
Yeah, my intentions were just like, what is the most spillable corner possible? And I chose the most spillable corner in
Look,
this
you could
entire
have put
apartment.
it a little bit into here. You could have put it over here. Near the audio box where it could spill.
Yeah.
Michael's standing right over there. I mean, you're doing great, Michael. Thank you very much.
I like to just stick to a corner and not move from the corner.
Anyways, yeah, Michael, when was the last time we interviewed you? Was that 2016, I want to say?
Either that or 2017. I would imagine it was probably like late 2016.
I think it was late 2016 because we did the Christmas special afterwards, and we didn't do one for 2017.
Oh, I remember that Christmas special.
Yeah. Oh
That
man,
was-
No, that was the bad Christmas special.
Oh.
We did a good Christmas special.
Oh, I was only part of the bad Christmas
You were
special.
part of the bad Christmas. I didn't invite you.
I think it was
Because-
only bad because we had Dan. I don't know why you brought him back.
I like Dan. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I would never do a podcast with that guy.
I mean, like, quality-wise, he's not great, but cool-wise, he's the coolest cat in town.
Mm-hmm. Can't
Yeah,
get
that's
any
true. That Dan
cooler.
does have a certain swagger.
So we got some topics today, Michael.
What kind of topics we got going today?
We got depressing topics.
Yes.
Oh,
We got
my
fun
favorite.
topics.
Yeah.
My least favorite.
We have something in between.
I'm indifferent.
Indifferent. So, Michael, now that we're all caught up on your lore, wait, do you work at the Madame Tussauds anymore?
I do not actually. I don't work there anymore.
Wait, are we allowed to talk about that now?
I don't care.
Okay.
I mean, doesn't matter with me. I don't work there anymore.
Because Dan used to work there,
Mm-hmm.
and Michael also worked there.
Yep. And Andrew is probably the one who was the last to leave.
Andrew was not invited on this podcast, so I could give a damn.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is some
Shade.
fire between the podcasts.
I mean, to be fair though, Andrew, he's everywhere, man. Like, I don't feel like there's gonna be a moment where he's gonna be appearing on your show, like disguised as someone else.
He's actually on our show right now. In fact, he's going by the name Dan right now. Hi, this is
Dan,
Andrew.
you're fired. Woo, that was a close one.
Oh man, you dodged a bullet there, man.
If you think about it, Andrew, Dan,
Dan is
Share.
actually an anagram for Andrew.
yeah, Dan and Bam.
So just to get back on track, a little backstory about Michael and Dan. They worked together at Madame Tussauds, and currently they are doing the Weird Alphabet.
Still?
I know, right?
Yeah.
When did you guys start?
We started back in February of 2016.
Yep.
So basically holding strong for 2 years at least here.
Congratulations. The thing I like about the podcast the most is how consistent it is. You pretty much come out with an episode every Monday.
We try to. I mean, at the
Yeah.
very least, if it's not every Monday, it's every week. We haven't really missed a week. And knock on wood, I don't want to jinx that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's been definitely a task. I feel like that kind of mentality spawned from Thank You Internet when David and I interviewed a lot of those YouTubers. I mean, as you know, Gage, because that's another part of our lore.
Should we just start from the beginning? Because I release these like every month.
Sure. Okay.
I mean,
I
why
don't-
not? People need the refresher. There's a test after class.
Yeah.
Grab your pencils. If you fail, you can't listen to Weird Alphabet anymore. But you're always welcome to Almost Adults because we're very welcoming.
Yeah, and us Weird Alphabeters are very exclusive.
Dan, you're part of Almost Adults.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Okay.
I'm the almost adulter.
Okay, Michael, continue with the history of your non-exclusive podcast.
With Thank You Internet, David and I, and David is also another host of Weird Alphabet.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, yep. No. The biggest thing that we got from Thank You Internet and interviewing all those YouTubers, content creators, we realized that consistency over quality. So in the beginning, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to pump out an episode every single week. And now we've managed to find the sweet spot, if you will, where we can be consistent while maintaining the quality. If you listen back to our early episodes of the Weird Alphabet, it's not necessarily the best quality. Sometimes, there's audio issues. Sometimes there's a smoke detector going off in the background. But, it was all part of the process, all part of the evolution of our show.
We had a listener email us angry about the fact that we had the smoke detector constantly going off, to the point where he's like, I will mail you 9-volt batteries so that I never have to listen to that again.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was listening to a few episodes today even, and it was so loud that it got my attention of like, oh my God, is there one in the house right now? Do I need to fix that? Like,
it's coming from inside the house. Yeah, it's a smoke detector.
Yeah, exactly. But, oh man, looking back, there's so many things we could have done better. As I said, we're in a sweet spot now where I feel like we're consistently good, we're consistent in putting out content, and we're not flatlining in terms of our energy, our commitment, and our fan base.
I am the exact opposite direction of you guys. I am quality over quantity, because I like to take my sweet time with these podcasts.
And as you should. Like, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it just depends on the type of show you're trying to do. Because when a televised series comes out, it comes out weekly, for the most part, depending on which platform you're watching it on. And if you have something like SpongeBob, where it comes out weekly, versus Sherlock, which comes out at least like a year or a big chunk of months in between, they're obviously trying to put a lot more effort into those projects shine.
So you're saying you're SpongeBob and I'm Sherlock.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's kind of a roundabout way of saying it, yeah.
I appreciate the compliment I just gave myself. I don't think that's true, though. I'm never happy with the quality of these podcasts, to be quite honest.
No, but that's healthy to do that in a weird way, because having that mentality of never being satisfied with the work that you do will be that drive to do it again, to make another show, knowing that you can make it better the next time you do so. I think you can, by having that mentality, you push yourself.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
that's why I'm an excellent co-host. I keep you going.
Also, it's worth noting that Dan did co-host another episode, but we had to scrap it.
It's okay.
Quality over quantity.
And it wasn't like I ever promoted that episode anyways.
Well, I appreciate you promoting it. Now, when it does come out, you're going to be like, oh, this is the one.
Well, this means that I'm going to be hesitant on actually promoting it. I'm going to actually wait for it to come out first, and then I'll say, hey, for my listeners out there, go to that podcast if you want to hear more of my soothing, deep voice.
And Michael's.
But mostly Dan's, because, I mean, remember, Dan has the swagger.
Dan does have a lot of swagger.
It's weird.
It's uncomfortable. I don't know. I feel like by the time I make these, I should make like a short video skit in between. Not in between, but like the time it takes me to go from one podcast to another, I feel like I should have like a sketch sorted out.
Well, I mean, why do you feel like you have to put in so much time into your episodes, Gage?
Well, that's actually the bar I set from like the first couple episodes. And I'm not going to go down in quality this far into the podcast.
No, I mean, I'm not asking whether or not why you're doing it, more or less what goes into that thought process of making sure everything is perfect before you put it out there. Because, like, for me, like, again, going back to how I edit the Weird Alphabet, I have deadlines that push me to basically do cram sessions where sometimes an episode was supposed to be going out at midnight, and here I am at like 4 o'clock in the morning editing the episode and putting it out there by like 5, 6 o'clock. For me, a lot of it is I want to make sure that it's good, but I want to make sure that it's out. So I'm curious on your side of it, of why you're so hesitant to put it out there rather than I want somebody to listen to it. I want it to be out there now.
Yeah, that's sort of the constant battle, and it's just sort of like a paradox in itself, because I want to make this good, and if it's not good, I don't put it out. And I constantly think it's not good enough, so I constantly don't put it out. And honestly, it takes like a month for me to be like, I just gotta put it out. I guess it's like a legacy thing. You want people to look back on your work and be like, oh, you have a quality backlog, instead of being like, you have a lot and it's not necessarily all quality.
Okay, that's fair. You're thinking more of the long-term projection.
Right.
Okay, cool. I get you. I definitely respect that.
Every time I meet up with you, man, I always want to know what kind of projects you're working on, because you always work on such cool projects.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I always have ideas. Now I'm thinking more about different shows that I could try to do, but again, it all comes down to time. I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of, because as much as I love listening to Weird Al, eventually it gets to a point where in order for it to be fresh, in order for it to see it in a different light, you have to take time away from it.
You're not married to the man. You don't have to apologize for it.
Right. That's very true. So what I've been doing is I've been trying to find other artists that, I don't know, just have naturally come across my path. And one artist that has really done that for me lately, that I've bought like 5 of his albums, has been Oingo Boingo.
Very cool.
I've been listening to his music so much to the point where I'm going, okay, if I was to ever do a serious music deep dive, trying to like how Dan, you would do the deeper meanings on Weird Alphabet, but like really try to find like what is the message that's supposed to be coming across here, because there clearly is one, it would be with Oingo Boingo. For those at home who haven't introduced themselves to Oingo Boingo, listen to the Only a Lad album, listen to it in its entirety, and then get back to me, because honestly, it's something that upon repeat listening, you pick up on things and you're going, oh, there is a through line for all of these songs, and it is dark.
I love when an album does that.
Yeah, I think with going through Weird Alphabet, it's definitely for all of us, this has been this journey of not only just going through Weird Al's work, but because of him being a parody artist, we have our own music discovery by finding out the origins of these songs and then finding out more of these artists as well. And it makes you really think that when you go into different music, listening to different things, that you want to understand more about them. You want to understand what their message is and why they're doing what they do. And not every artist is just making music for the sake of music. They're really passionate about it. And when you analyze one artist, you start to do this to almost any artist you get into.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's ultimately what compels us. Even in the beginning, we were just like, we love his music. And so now, it's a cherry on top to learn about where everything came from and discovering different artists that way. Like, when we discovered Hilly Michaels.
Yeah, Hilly Michaels was great.
Yeah, exactly. And, and I know for those listening at home who know of Weird Al's works, there is an Oingo Boingo song that we're going to end up getting to. But with Weird Al, what makes it so much fun is it's a variety bag every single week. You never quite know what parody, what inspiration he's going to be drawing from. Some of these songs that I know that you guys don't know, like Dan, there's some songs that I've kept secret from you guys. Eventually, when you get there, you're going to go, wait, what the heck? Why did he do this? What is this even?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of deep diving into any artist, I think.
Not to delve too much into Weird Alphabet, but you don't only cover songs, you also, recently at least, you covered books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting for the day where you're like, yeah, Weird Al yelled in a crowd one time, and we're going to be covering that on the Weird Alphabet this week.
We bring up a lot of odd works. I bring up Avocado every once in a while just because it was so short. It was so weird. For a lot of us, it didn't feel it was worthy of us actually covering it for one episode. And whenever that ever happens, we'll always bring up Avocado because of it. But I don't know, even with the weird things that he does, it's no longer just talking about his music, but it's actually talking about the career of Al and the choices that he makes throughout his career. And I always enjoy Michael's segments of the Al appearances. It's not just him doing music, but he was in a cartoon, he was in a movie, he was in a podcast. Like, it's always fascinating to hear where he came from, and it seems like it's never ending.
Well, and it's funny that you would say, Gage, oh, Weird Al yelling in a crowd. And that's kind of what I end up having to look for now with these cameos. And in the beginning, it was so easy. In the beginning, it was like, oh yeah, he was on My Little Pony. And then, yeah, we'll never cover that song. Now that he's released like Medium Rarities, which basically had all of the songs that he made while doing TV shows, now I'm like, oh, man, gotta go back.
I know I definitely made fun of you for doing so, but like when you brought up the owl appearances, I was like, all right, what's next on his IMDb page?
We're cutting this out. We're cutting this portion out. Dan, that was too rude. You got to be nice to our guests.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Michael. I'm sorry. We'll get you a nice blanket, some IMDb pages, and we'll get you sorted.
I would love to have a blanket of like some random actor's IMDb page.
I will get you a blanket of Nicolas Cage's IMDb page.
Absolutely, Dan. We should go into this business.
Why aren't we doing this now?
Are you going to quit on me to do IMDb blankets?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Fuck you.
IMDb blankets.
IMDb blanket.
IMD blankets, yes. Dan, this is great.
This is gold. All right, we're cutting this out of the podcast. No one needs to know about this.
Okay, let me just reverse it. So, hey, Michael, you, speaking of Weird Al, you actually got to meet the man, is that right?
That is correct, yeah. It's really awesome.
And you said he was a hero of yours.
In many ways, yes, he definitely is a hero in terms of being a silent, nerdy, front of the class type of kid who was most likely made fun of, especially for his hobbies and interests. And the next thing you know, he's releasing an album in the year 2006 where White and Nerdy is like the title track, and it's celebrating nerddom. And, you know, that just became my anthem. It became my theme song, and it really helped me get through probably one of the toughest school years of my life, to be honest. But because of him, it ended up being one of the most influential years I don't think I'll ever be able to truly forget.
What grade were you in?
That would have been freshman year.
Oh, I was going to say middle school is the worst, but freshman, it's pretty bad as well.
That's true. I feel like, okay, let me premise it.
Preface.
Let me give you a preface. In middle school, which definitely was tough, I was in a Catholic school, a private Catholic school. And for both 7th grade and 8th grade, it was laughable. It was a joke. The teachers I had, like especially math, were horrible. Like they would lose your assignments or they would get off track. And really it just came down to me being friends with the nerdy kids, the social shutouts, if you will. And that next year, for freshman year, I decided to completely just abandon that school and go to a public school. And I knew no one. I was alone. Actually, I take that back. The only person I knew was a senior that I had met going into that previous summer. There was like a Shakespeare summer camp theater type of thing. And I met him. His name was Graham, and he was going to be a senior that next year. And so that was the only person I knew. And that first day, he found me, and he just threw me into a group of nerds, which were like not even freshmen. It was all sophomores and juniors.
He threw you into a group of nerds?
Well, I mean, quite literally, actually. I was very, very, very tiny, and he was a very large man.
So you went up and you said hello, and he threw you into nerds?
Yes, he threw me into nerds. I still remember talking about how everybody was excited about the Transformer films.
Oh, how young we were.
That's what I was telling you, man.
We were Optimism Prime.
Yes. I remember learning White and Nerdy and memorizing it, getting the sweatshirt, and then having another senior, Sparta kick me, because remember 300 came out that year. Sparta kicked me down the flight of stairs.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah, wearing the sweater. He was like, "Seniors rule!" And then he just Sparta kicked me.
It's not a very creative call, man. Like, you're not going to be a senior in 6 months. You could be like young adults rule. Me as a person rules. My race rules. That would have been a little weird. I'm not gonna lie, but that makes more sense.
What was worse was that other seniors thought there was a fight going on, so by the time I got down to the bottom, they're like, "Kick him!" And then they sort of like, I wish I was joking.
You're
dude.
like, guys, I'm not winning here.
This is crazy.
Clearly, this is like the equivalent of a man being thrown out of a saloon window. Like, come on.
Someone's playing the entertainer in the background.
Yeah. And with Weird Al, going back to Weird Al, he gave me the strength and the encouragement that I should stay true and stay proud of my nerdiness and not let that be snuffed out by, by the haters.
So you got to meet him a few times. You remember how many times you've met him before?
I've met him, including seeing him in concert. I met him twice.
Okay. I imagine these were just quick meet and greets. Like, I mean, what were those conversations?
Okay, so the first one was back when he just released Mandatory Fun. I lived in that part of Hollywood next to Amoeba, and he was having like a record signing meet and greet type of thing. And I was like, dude, I'm totally gonna go to this. What I didn't realize was how many people loved Weird Al. And so when I showed up, like maybe an hour before it was supposed to go down, like the line was already crazy snaked throughout the entire Amoeba Records building, going all the way down the street. And I'm like, oh no. I toughened it out. I waited in that line for 4 hours.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. Like, I waited in line for 4 hours, and it didn't even dawn on me that, like, I could have had him sign something. Like, I just wanted to meet him. Like, it was just, like, I needed to tell him that White and Nerdy saved my life, and by the time I got up there, I'm like, okay, well, he'll be signing the CD, but I could also have him sign something else. So I had the hat that I was wearing, my Ash Ketchum, like, Pokemon hat. I had him sign the brim of that. And, you know, in a way, it was kind of symbolic because I would love to play Pokemon back in high school. Like, I bought a 3DS. A 2DS. I'd be one of those guys that would be, like, playing the original DS, playing Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Just like, yeah, you know, getting really competitive and having everybody else walking by be like, nerds. When I actually met Al and I was staring at him face to face, I was speechless, even though it had been 4 hours. And this is the thing too. This is one thing that I don't think I'll ever quite forget is we were told at one point that everybody else who was in line had to like go home because the thing was only supposed to be like 2 hours long. Shortly after that, like someone else from Amoeba came out and they're like, don't worry everybody, stay in line. Weird Al is going to sign everybody and meet everyone.
Aw.
And that was like his choice. It wasn't him being pressured, it was his choice. And I think that really speaks volumes for the type of person he was. So by the time I got up to him, even though it had been 4 hours, like he was still smiling and being very polite. And I told him, I'm like, I wish I would have known that you were signing something. I would have had you sign my copy of Straight Outta Linwood. And White and Nerdy, I memorized it in freshman year and I knew no one. And I basically gave him like a whole rundown of everything that I had already told you guys. And, you know, he laughed and he's like, well, good. I'm glad I was able to help. And then immediately after that, we took a photo and I was like, hey, can we do this? And so I can do like a thing where I put my arm over my head, kind of like a wrap it around my head, essentially. And I'm double jointed. So that's what I was able to do. And it turns out he could do it too.
Aw.
That's like the photo I have that I had for my cover photo for the longest time. And we can include it in the description.
From what I remember from the few times we have Skyped, that is your profile picture.
Yeah. And I look so ridiculously happy. Like that is like the most happy I've been in that time of my life, I think. It was one of the greatest moments right there. Little did I know that I would be meeting him again years later.
Go on.
Oh, okay, we're gonna go there.
You're in for the long haul, buddy.
Because you ended up doing something extra for the podcast, which has definitely gained popularity and definitely got L's attention for sure.
Okay, well, all right. Flash forward a few years to the year 2018.
That's this year.
Yeah, I know. It's like we're almost all caught up. So, been doing the Weird Al podcast. It's been fun. I've never thought that it would go on for that long, but I'm so glad it had. And so for one of the episodes, we were talking about the Hamilton polka that had recently come out. And I never really got into Hamilton, but now having to, do research for the song, like I kind of had to. And I listened to the Alexander Hamilton song, like the title song or the first song from the entire musical. And I was like, Alfred Matthew Yankovic, that works. And I was like, wait, I could parody this. Like, Lin-Manuel Miranda is a fan of Weird Al. Weird Al is a fan of Lin-Manuel. Obviously, they did a Hamilton polka thing. They collaborated together. This could work. And so I put my creative juices and my pen and paper going, and I broke out the Wikipedias and the Weird Al biography, and I went to town. I went to work, and it took me 2 days, I think, to write it. and then I performed it. Like, it took me like a night to record everything. I made a YouTube video that took me a few hours. I uploaded it, and the next thing I know, I have people telling me to send it into Dr. Demento. So Steve from another Weird Al podcast, the We're All Yankovics, told me that I should submit it to him, and I did, and I never would have thought I even would have gotten anywhere with that. And next thing I know, it is being uploaded and reshared by other random people on Reddit and on the various Weird Al Facebook groups. The views are going up and up and up, and I'm like, what's happening? And next thing I know, I get told that it was featured on the Dr. Demento show. And, you know, that's how Weird Al got his start, was by sending songs to Dr. Demento, and he would play them. And, you know, the fact that it all kind of worked out, and you know, it's a song about Weird Al, like, it made sense that he would play it. Like, I never would have thought he would have started the show that way.
I didn't know that's how he, like, started the show.
Yeah, that whole episode of his show for that week, he started the show with that. Granted, he credited me as David Spencer.
Uh-oh. Rest in peace.
Yeah, that's why he's dead. But that next week, he corrected himself. That was also the first thing, because people corrected him, and so then he corrected himself on that following week. But also that following week was the last week of March, and that's when he does like his monthly top 10. And wouldn't you know it, I made number 2 of that top 10.
Ooh.
Yep, but who is number 1?
I was right behind Weird Al's Hamilton Polka.
What?
And so I was like, wait, people really liked it and they asked for you to play it? And I was like, okay, whatever, that's cool. I mean, I'm kind of speechless. You know, I never really would have thought it would have gone anywhere. I thought it was just going to be a joke for the show. And then that next month, I'm posting the video again, just sharing it around, being like, hey, everybody, you know, it's been 1 month and this is how many views it's gotten. And thank you, everybody, for sharing it. And I'm so glad to Dr. Demento for playing it on his show last month. I know that my presence here has been short-lived, but, you know, thank you again. It was an honor. And then Ian, who is one of the group admins, was like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you thanking them and saying it's a short run? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, dude, it got number 2 again for April. And I'm like, no way. And he's like, yeah, that's why I thought you were sharing it again. And I'm like, oh, man, what? So it was top 10 for both March and April of 2018. I guess long story short, going back to when I finally saw Weird Al again at the ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised Vanity Tour, I had him sign something for charity that we're going to be showcasing later on the Weird Alphabet when we go to Festival later this fall. But I also basically I asked him, I'm like, hey, had you heard this Hamilton parody about you that's been floating around on the internet? And he's like, yeah, I heard it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm the guy that wrote it. And his eyes lit up. And he's like, that was you? And then without me being able to say anything, he just reached out his hand to like shake my hand. And it was like a firm handshake. It was one of those things where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay. So I shook his hand and he's like, good job. That was great.
Yeah, you got some street cred from the Weird Al himself.
From the man himself.
I know. And it was that. I feel like, you know, I couldn't think properly after that. Like everything after that was a blur. Next thing I know, I'm at home. I couldn't sleep for like that entire night. Like it was very magical. And I don't use that term a lot. It didn't feel real. Yeah. Let me put it that way.
Every moment in your life had just like led up to that one moment.
Yeah.
So, Dan, have you met any heroes, and was it quite as magical as them recognizing you, shaking your hand?
Okay. Man, that's a hard story to follow after that. The only one I could think of that has been fairly significant, I had met at the LA Comic-Con. I had heard, it was rumored that Brian Lee O'Malley would be at the LA Comic-Con that year.
Scott Pilgrim guy.
Yep, he was the original comic writer of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, that 5-part book series.
6.
What?
It's a 6-part series, Dan.
Is it 6?
It's 6.
And in color now.
I should really read the 6.
And in color, now available on Amazon.
Yeah.
Go on!
What's even sad is that I own all those books too. Oh, how did I forget about that? Anyway, I had heard that he was going to do a meet and greet And I was like, I'm definitely going to meet this guy no matter what. I don't care how long it takes to wait in line, which I didn't actually have to wait in line too long for it. But when I came up to him, I actually had the book with me, knowing that he would be there to sign it. And I remember while reading the book in college, that was the time that Scott Pilgrim was coming out. I had read the book, and I remember seeing this one panel. It was just a one-off comment where this guy says, yeah, the band's wearing skeleton suits and such. And that guy was drawn in a way that looked almost identical to me.
You?
To me. Daniel, your co-host.
You're getting a little too comfortable with this co-host thing. Come on, man. Just tone it down.
Okay, fine. You're,
Co-host.
Okay, fine. Yeah. And when I had met him, I was like, I really enjoyed the books. And while I was reading it, I had noticed this one character that had looked like me. And I realized once I showed him that, I was actually dressed up as Marty McFly.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't have my glasses on for that costume. And I had shaved my beard as well. And in the comic book, he had glasses, he had a beard on. And I realized as soon as I said it, I was like, this doesn't look like me at all now. But I showed him that, and I was like, this character, when I read it, looked exactly like me while I was reading it. And if you could sign it right above that panel there. And he had told me that that character he had drew was actually based on an intern that he had while he was writing that book. And then I got a photo with him. You can actually see on my Instagram. Yeah, that was me meeting at least one of my heroes.
And that intern was Dan.
Time traveling Dan.
So why exactly is Brian O'Malley your hero?
I really enjoyed the story. I think it's because I really enjoy Edgar Wright movies. Hearing that he was doing Scott Pilgrim, I started going into the source material of Scott Pilgrim, and I read all the books, read through them so quickly. It was like a week that I had gone through all 6 of the comic books, yeah. And I just really love the story. I really love his style, and it was just amazing to meet the person who was behind it.
Good enough. Well, I've met a couple heroes. I've said before, I think my dad is a big hero of mine. And I've met my dad. He didn't leave me like some people.
I'm sorry.
That's so sad.
Yeah, you're really bringing the mood down by saying, oh, my dad left me. Oh. We're cutting that out anyways.
Oh my God, that's what I say. I'm like, dude, that's so dark. Like some people, mom.
My dad is one of the hardest working guys I know. It took him a while to sort of get to that place, and I'm proud of him for all the work he's done. I also got to meet Mick, Rice Pirate. I think he's a hero of mine just because of how hardworking he is. And I got to meet Brian from Ninja Sex Party a couple of times. And yeah, I actually have the CD on the desk that we're all sitting at.
All 3 of us at once.
Every time he sees me, he's like, oh, hey, Gage, what's up?
You're on a first name basis.
We're on a first name basis, yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, because I've been to a few of those concerts with you, Gage, and whenever they're doing like a moment where they're running past a long line and like shaking hands and high-fiving, taking photos, signing things, like for those at home, there isn't much of a difference to Gage's story. It's literally him walking past and being like, oh, hey, Gage. And then just walking by. Like, it's so casual that it's almost creepy. It's weird, because, like, there was even one time when we were, Gage and I were in the car, we were driving, we were talking about him, and next thing you know, we see him drive past us, like, in the opposite lane. And I'm like, no way, that couldn't have been. Like, it's like, this is weird, Gage.
I know, man. One day he's gonna snap my neck. That's the Ninja Brian way.
It'll be glorious. It'll be a worthy death.
And then I'll finally completed my arc as a human being.
Why do you consider him a hero, though?
Well, I did do like a short film based off a Ninja Sex Party in college. You can't find it anymore. It's off the internet. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, I'm going to have to go into the dark web for this one.
Hey, good luck. But anyways, he was actually in London the first time I met him. And I did that project. It's actually a very similar story to Michael's because I did that project and I wanted to go to this podcast that he puts on called The Story Collider. And I went to that show, and it's like a small show. It was like in a basement at a pub. And I was talking to some of the performers there because I love the stories of The Story Collider because it's so personal. So I was congratulating on all them stories. And he walks up and he's like, oh, hey, what's your name? And I'm like, oh, hey, I'm Gage. And he's like, oh, yeah, no, I totally know you. Yeah. It was just the most casual thing. I'm like, holy shit, you remembered. And so we talked later that night. We talked about like Ben Folds and stuff. And we got a picture. And yeah, basically same thing. Magical night. Ever since then, he sees me. He says, hey, Gage. But yeah, just taking time out of your day to talk to someone, it means a lot. So that's why I tell people all the time, if someone means something to you, please tell them. It means the world to them. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to bother them. I'm like, you're not bothering them with your praise. Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah. I mean, if people really get self-conscious about it, it's because they're wanting to do a lot more than just give them praise. There's a fine line between saying, hey, I love your work, and hey, I love your work. Can we get a photo? And also, can you sign this? Like, you know what I mean? And that was the one thing, too, that even with seeing Weird Al again a second time, where I was having him sign something that is kind of a collectible and something that I had to go around and, like, email people, like the security team beforehand, like, just so I could get it into the actual concert. When he saw it, he kind of looked at me and was like, oh, another one of these. You know what I mean? Like, there's like kind of like that negative connotation when it comes to people signing anything now because of eBay and because of just being able to just sell things for a lot higher of a price now. It's like you're almost using their popularity for your personal gain.
That's actually something I really, really dislike, is people using fame as a tool to get forward. A lot of my quote-unquote famous friends are friends with, like, recognition. I just happen to be their friend because we happen to hit it off, which I think is a great thing, especially nowadays with, like, Twitter and such. So, like someone for their personality, and not because they have 3 million subscribers or whatever. To quote Mick, the numbers don't matter.
Yeah, that's very true. And that was a very good episode, too, by the way.
Hey, thanks, man.
Well, have you guys ever had any issues with, like, running into someone that you've looked up to, or at the very least, like, have a fondness for, and then they turn around and they're just not that great of a person, or you just had, like, a kind of a sour run-in with that person?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm lucky enough to say I haven't had any, like, bad encounters with someone I looked up to. But I heard that's not uncommon, especially here in Los Angeles.
Anyone who's treating a celebrity like a human cardboard cutout. That's my suspicion as to why you hear stories about celebrities being jerks.
Oh, yeah.
People.
I like to think that everyone is mostly good and not a jerk.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they just had a bad day. That might be it. That's what it boils down to. But also, what you're building in your head can't always amount to the real thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Michael, like Weird Al, I'm sure you've kind of built him up sort of over the years, and it's great that he happened to meet all your expectations, but sometimes that's not always the case.
Right.
What about you? Have you ever had one of those bad experiences?
Well, not with someone as high of a stature as I would put, like, Weird Al.
We don't have to name anything.
Yeah, I know. I have met other people that I've grown up watching on TV and, you know, really had a fondness for. I remember with, like, Dan, David, and I were at, well, what was it called again? Stanley's Comic-Con.
Yeah, it was Stanley's.
What was it before?
No, it was Kamikaze. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Stanley coughed on you and you received a cold and
No,
then you
I
died the next
think it was
day.
a voice actor that we had met.
Yeah. Oh, good. I think you and I are thinking of the exact same person.
Yeah.
Anyways, we met him, and what was it, Dan? Like, did we want, like, an interview with him, or were we just trying to, like, take a photo with him?
I think it was just the interview, is that we wanted to do, or just talk to him.
Yeah.
But it seemed like he was just more there to be like, I'm just here doing a job.
Yeah. Well, no, it was even worse than that. Yeah. It was worse than that because he said, no, I don't have time for that. And I'm like, okay, well.
I'm sure he didn't mean it in a mean way. I don't mean to be. Never mind. I don't have to defend this guy. Whatever. Fuck him.
No, but I mean, I get it, but I get where you're coming from, Gage, and that's what I thought too, rationally. I was like, okay, you know what? Obviously, there's a lot going on that we probably don't know about, so we're gonna let him do his thing. But maybe, like, within that half hour, an hour later, we would look back at his table and he's just sitting there doing the exact same thing. He's just not wanting to be a team player with that. And it's not that we had any sort of, like, right to interview him. It was just the way that he shrugged us off and was like, Yeah, no, I don't do interviews. You know what I mean?
Like leading up to it, we had done a few interviews before where like every other vendor, they were just so open and just wanted to talk to us or talk about whatever they were promoting, what they were doing, why they were there, and having that invitation and having all those warm welcomes, and then to have that be a stark contrast between what we were used to. I think that's what really made it so negative.
Yeah, and also too, he was like charging a lot of money for even just an autograph. Like, and I get it. Obviously, they have to make money somehow in between gigs, but you know, that's the actor life. But it was a little overpriced. Like, I could go to Kevin Conroy and get an autograph, a little bit of an interview, and a photo for the amount of money he was charging for like a photo that he provides and a signature. I guess it just depends on the type of person that they truly are behind the scenes.
I don't know. It's hard to talk about celebrities and not kind of come off as entitled a little bit.
That's true.
But a little bit of niceness goes a long way. That's where I'll end that.
And then sometimes there's some people that really surprised us to talk about, especially like going to these cons is a great way to see all these people. I think Michael and I, we met Lloyd Kaufman, which if you are a fan of like Toxic Avengers and any of those films, like we got to speak with him. Like unfortunately, like we weren't able to get the audio recording for it, but like talking to that guy was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard nothing but great things about Lloyd Kaufman.
Yeah, he's an incredible person.
I mean, even just, there was a lot of people at that convention specifically that we were able to meet, and even meeting Jason Roiland and Dan Harmon.
Oh, yeah,
Justin
Dan
Roiland.
I know, I realized what I said.
I forgot.
Wow, you guys are horrible.
Well, it was just so
my
short.
favorite things are Jason Roiland and all 5 Scott Pilgrim books. These are my favorite things, and you can't tell me otherwise.
Yeah, we both got a signed copy, and I don't know how that left my memory.
Meeting them, even for a split second, was interesting. You could tell that they were just trying to keep the line moving, but they still took time to answer a question or two, you know?
Yeah.
Good on them. Yeah,
Good on them.
it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
like one rotten apples ruins the barrel. Because I'm sure you remember Jerkwad voice actor a lot more. Well, not a lot more, but that memory sticks out a little bit more than all the great memories you've made.
Yeah, for that being our first convention and also just our first time really meeting these types of people, it definitely did leave a poor taste in the mouth.
The poor taste in the mouth.
Yep.
It's very specific. You can have a poor taste somewhere else, but we don't go there.
Okay. So would you recommend meeting a hero?
You know, I would be cautious with meeting a hero. I wouldn't just say go out gung-ho, try to track that person down and meet them. I would try to set realistic expectations.
That's a good way to say it, yeah.
It's one thing to just have your hopes and thoughts and your assumptions of how this person's going to be, but then do yourself a favor and look into, you know, stories of other people meeting that person. And then also taking into account with a grain of salt how they went about going about meeting that person.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these horror stories are people that are like, oh my God, Tom Hanks, he plays a nice guy on TV and movies, but he's like a horrible person. I went up to him while he was having lunch with his daughter, and next thing I know, like, he's telling me to go away. Like, that's so rude.
Yeah, never talk to people while they're eating.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
it's like you treat them as how you would want to be treated. But again, as Gage had also mentioned, if you don't want to bother them, it's not necessarily bothering them if you're going up and being like, hey, just wanted to say, love your work. Okay, thanks, bye. You know what I mean? There's a difference. Like,
And no is always an option,
Yeah.
by the way.
yeah.
If you ask the selfie and they say, nah, don't take it personally.
Exactly. No, absolutely. I remember there was this one time I met Keith David, and he was just at a coffee place. I think he was meeting up with like a fellow co-star, and they were just like running lines. I didn't like go up to him, but like as he was passing by leaving, I had mentioned like, hey, by the way, I love your work. Like, your voice is iconic. And he's like, whoa, thank you kindly. And I was like, all right, okay, cool. I got like,
You got some Keith David love.
yeah, exactly. It's stuff like that. Be cordial, be polite, but definitely try and meet your hero. Just set yourself up with reasonable expectations.
Okay.
Well, I think with that, we can move on to final thoughts. What about you, Michael? Any final thoughts?
Well, considering I'm now sitting in a pool of my nostalgia, going back in time and talking about my high school life and my heroes and meeting them, and I think that it's important to remember where you came from and also to remember what influences you. If you ever get into a point where you are struggling creatively or even mentally or emotionally, keep in mind the people that inspire you and you know, don't be afraid to reach out to them. Like Gage, you were saying, you know, your dad is your hero. I definitely would put my dad up there as well.
Yeah, if you want to contact your dad, where
Yeah.
can people find your dad?
People can find my dad watching Star Wars Episode 1 over and over again.
Final thoughts, Michael.
Yeah, to pretty much sum it up, it's just don't be afraid to reach out to people who inspire you and let them know that they have, because I bet you that as insignificant as it may seem, it may mean the world to them, especially from being on both sides of the coin, from being someone who watches or listens to someone make content to being someone who edits and produces said content. Definitely don't be afraid to reach out to them, and just remember that, you know, they are people too, and sometimes they're good people and sometimes they're not so good.
But in the end of the day, they are people.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly, like you and me.
My final thought?
But not Dan. Yeah, go ahead.
My final thoughts are have fun with what you're making, take inspiration from other people, but try not to hold them to such a high standard that you'll be disappointed. Set your expectations low, or actually, no, separate their creativity from the person themselves. Have the good mind to separate that and just be aware that they might create that product that you like so much. But at the end of the day, going back to what Michael said, they are still people.
I like that.
My final thoughts is, with a lot of these people who are heroes, a lot of the content, the work that they're creating, this is coming from a place that goes deep within them. They could be coming from a very hurtful place, and this is their way of expressing themselves. This is their way of telling the world how they feel. This is a story that they've had pent up inside them for so long. For them to put that out there, and like with Gage, what you've been doing, for you to put your work out there, that is immensely personal to yourself. To put yourself out on the line, to be that vulnerable, it takes a lot of courage to do. And when meeting your heroes, they've gone through similar struggles as well. And being able to appreciate that, telling them that you appreciate what they have done, to appreciate their vulnerability, to appreciate their story, what they've had and wanted to tell the world for so long, it really does help them. It really does encourage them. And even if it's someone who's not well known around the world, if you find a local band that you really enjoy, let them know. Go see a show. Go talk to them afterwards and say, hey, you're doing a great job, and I really enjoy what you're doing. Like, that really goes so much farther than you think.
Yeah, that was great,
A lot
Dan.
on that.
So
Good.
eloquent.
I like that one.
All right.
All right, and Michael, one last thing that we do before we leave is that we do challenges now. So based off of our discussion today, you need to give a challenge to me and Dan. A reasonable challenge, I have to say.
A reasonable challenge. And you have to do it right now?
We don't have to do it right now, but we have to do it before the next podcast, and we'll discuss on the next podcast.
Okay. I want you to both reach out to a person that has inspired you, like another hero, and try to see if you can friend them on Facebook.
Friend them on Facebook. Okay.
Or I will also accept just reaching out to them in an email or a personal message.
Okay. I like that challenge.
I like it. We
Yeah.
can do that.
Because I recently did that to another person that I'll hopefully be able to talk to a little bit more about later. But it's easier to add them on Facebook than you think, my friends.
All right. Well, I will not be adding them on Facebook because Facebook is garbage. All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Where can people find you?
You can find me on the internet, Gage. specifically social media websites, and on pipedreampodcast.com, the same as you.
Yay!
Yeah. You can find me on the Weird Alphabet, where we talk about all the Weird Al songs in alphabetical order. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on Twitter, Arctic_Ginger, and on Instagram and Facebook, Michael William Hunter. But if you really want to get in touch with me, send me an email at alscarrierpigeons@gmail.com.
Yeah. Dan, did you want to plug anything?
No, really, most of my stuff is on Weird Alphabet. So if you check that out, I mean, you're also checking me out. I have an Instagram where I share my photos at danielkawka.com. I'll be posting photos from my Jim Henson experience, which is incredible. You can hear me talk about that on the Weird Alphabet, but yeah.
And you can find me at Gage Agnew. If you want to tweet us, it's at almostadultspod, and email us at almostadultspodcast@gmail.com. Good night, everybody. Please don't friend me on Facebook.